Hi, this is Terry Evans. I'm fascinated by the cocktail and craft distillery culture. While hosting the Alberta Spirits and Cocktail Festival in Edmonton, March 21st and 22nd, I was able to interview people from the industry who shared their knowledge and expertise. Today's guest is Michelle Middleton from Middleton's Bitters. You can find them online at middletonsbitters.com.
Reluctantly.
This podcast is brought to you by homegirls.ca, a top producing team at Remax Professionals, and Northern Alberta Heating. With work in and out of Edmonton, they're looking for sheet metal workers. Send resumes to tim@northernheating.ca. Now, let's get to the show.
Reluctantly.
Alrighty, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Terry Evans Distillery Discovery, where we talk all about distilleries and other industry-related topics to try and provide you with more education about everything that happens, whether you want to be more informed when you're going to a distillery, or if you just want to incorporate some stuff with your own home bar. So this time around, we have Michelle Middleton from Middleton's Bitters.
Hello, everybody.
So Michelle's here to talk about bitters. And this is the thing. When I met my wife, she was a bartender. And I thought, oh, wow, she's a bartender. She could make drinks. And then when my daughter got into it, then I started thinking, okay, well, she's going to follow in her mom's footsteps. And I thought, I'm kind of a bartender too, because I can make a Caesar, but there's a hell of a lot more that goes into bartending than making a Caesar these days. And as I've learned more about it over the last 4 or 5 years with the cocktail culture, bitters is one of the things that I just was never aware of, but am now learning more and more about it. So that's why we have Michelle here to talk about and explain exactly what bitters are and some of her products. So where do we start?
Okay, so when you think of cocktail making at its purest form, a cocktail is defined as bitters, a spirit, and sugar. And if anybody understands what's happening in our cocktail culture now, the old-fashioned is what I just explained to you. So think of bitters as the spice rack to your home bar. It's not the star of the show. It's the trusty sidekick that always lets what's going into the drink, the complexity of the drink, actually grow and blossom, and it comes alive when you use bitters. The number one question I get asked is, are bitters bitter? And the answer is yes, but we use whole spices, real fruit, real botanics, and so you do have that spice, that bitterness, but oftentimes it's paired with something sweet. So it calms that sweetness, and you get all the different layers of flavor coming through when you use a bitter.
If somebody wanted to start incorporating bitters into their drink making at home, what is a good starter sort of set to go with Middleton?
Sure. So bitters are very intimidating for a lot of people, as Terry mentioned. And one of the things you can think about bitters, even in the simplest of cocktails, a gin and tonic, a rye and coke, rum and diet, that kind of thing. You can add bitters to it, and all of a sudden it changes the flavor. Oftentimes people think they're looking for a syrup, or when you put like our cherry vanilla bitters, which is our number one seller, if you put cherry vanilla bitters, and everyone thinks it's going to be that punch in your face cherry. It's the subtle notes of cherry in behind that makes the spirit come alive. Again, we want to highlight the spirit. We don't want to impede on it or overtake it. So when we're talking about fresh starts, things like cherry vanilla, mint and blueberry, those types of flavors of bitters, they're really easy for yourself as a beginner to understand, because you know what a blueberry tastes like, you know what a cherry tastes like, so you expect those types of notes in the cocktail itself.
Are all bitters liquid, or do they come also in other forms, or like powders or flakes or anything like that?
No, so bitters are always in a liquid form. But there's different types of bitters when you talk about classifications. You talk about potable bitters and non-potable bitters. So everything I make is considered a non-potable, meaning you don't open the bottle and drink it. Potable bitters, we all know what Aperol is or Campari is. Those are considered potable bitters. They're drinkable bitters.
Okay. How did you start? I mean, it's Middleton Bitters. It's your last name.
Yes.
How did you start this company?
COVID was a massive factor. what COVID did, we all went through COVID in our own little ways, in our own ways, and we processed it how we all processed it. But for myself, it was a drive to run my own company, understand my own business, and I have been making cocktail bitters for a very long time. I started being a home mixologist. I don't have a mixology background. That's not who I am. I have 20 years of construction sales. That is what I've done for the last 20 years. And when I found bitters, it was a unique product. And the reason why I was making the bitters at home is because you couldn't find them anywhere. And so I saw the hole in the marketplace, and I chose to dive in headfirst.
Reluctantly.
Reluctantly podcast is brought to you by Northern Alberta Heating Limited, specializing in commercial HVAC. And Corey tells me that they are busier than a fox in a chicken coop right now with all the business they can handle and then some. They are looking for motivated, long-term employees who want to work for a great company. Are you an experienced sheet metal worker? Are you looking for a new outfit? A change for the better? Maybe the place you're at isn't the right fit for you. And maybe you know somebody who's an experienced sheet metal worker. Well, let them know about this. Send resumes to tim@northernheating.ca. They're looking for new people, first-year apprentices, second-year apprentices, and younger journeymen. There are also positions for entry-level with training available too. They have work both in and out of Edmonton. If you've got these qualities and qualifications, get your resume together and send it off today. There's jobs awaiting, and that tin ain't gonna bash itself. Email tim@northernheating.ca to kickstart something new or a change for the better.
Reluctantly.
Where do you have them commercially available or retail? Or because I mean, we've run into each other at farmers markets,
Yes.
at events like this,
Yes.
and that sort of thing.
Yes.
Are you also retailing out at?
Yes.
And how far and wide?
Yeah, so we are actually coast to coast. We actually have suppliers all the way out to Vancouver and all the way over to Nova Scotia. We have 60 retailers across Canada. We also have our online store where we sell direct to consumer.
Okay, so what do we have here in front of us? Are we going to start, right to left or left to right, or what do you have?
Okay, so let's start with the original. So cherry vanilla was the flavor that I started the company with. So our bitters line consists of 10 different products. We just launched our chocolate here just last month. Cherry vanilla recently won an award at the Canadian Spirit competition. So we won silver in 2024 with that flavor. Bitters, again, old fashions, think of old fashions, that kind of thing. We saw the need. We would have people come to our booth in our markets, like Terry says, we're always at all the different events. And they were struggling to use bitters, and they would say things like, "Oh, I like old fashions, but I never make them at home. It's too hard, it's too complicated, it's too cumbersome. I never get the flavors right, I never get the profiles right." That's when we created our syrups. So now you can get our cherry vanilla bitters in its purest form, obviously as bitters, and we can also do it as a syrup. So we've taken a very simple syrup, we've added our bitters to it. So we simplified the process. So 2 ounces of whiskey or bourbon, ½ ounce of our simple syrup. I'm sure you have a cup of ice at home. You give it a stir, you have a drink. I've simplified it for you.
That's another thing. It's one thing for the bitters, but then also to find out the simple syrup and the creation of it. My daughter makes her own. There's all kinds of
100%.
Like I'm just looking at some of the ingredients. I don't know what gentian root, or quassia or cardamom or anything like this.
Absolutely.
So there's all kinds of different things that can accentuate, not overpower your spirit,
Yep.
but accentuate the drink.
Yep.
Okay, what do we have here in the tin?
So in the middle is our cocktail smoker. So again, talking about old-fashioned culture, a smoked old-fashioned is probably the most #1 order drink in most restaurants. I actually talked to a couple of restaurants here tonight, or this afternoon rather, and that's exactly it. That's a #1 cocktail that's ordered on their bar, and it's a smoked cocktail. We simplified, again, talking about the end consumer who doesn't really do cocktails and makes cocktails and does mixology. The idea of this is to simplify the process. So you need yourself a little mini blowtorch. It comes with the wood chips. The smoker itself sits on top of the glass. You hit it with that blowtorch, it smokes the glass, and you get a nice, rich, smoky flavor in your cocktail. And you can see and you smell the glass after and all that nice smokiness, and think about that in your drink. It's like campfire in your glass. It's wonderful.
So, and all of these things would make great stocking stuffers, especially this for the kids. That, along with a blowtorch, would be awesome.
100%.
For little Jimmy. Jimmy's first blowtorch.
100%.
What about this one?
Okay, so of course we always eat with our eyes. And so we have our dehydrated garnish. Now the dehydrated garnish isn't designed to replace the fresh. You can't replace the fresh. Fresh is always best where we're talking about cocktail making. But if you're anything like my household, you plan to have a lime or an orange in your fridge with the intent to actually use it as a cocktail. And by the time you get to use it, either the kid has eaten it or it's shriveled up in the back of your fridge. This can stay by your bar. It's dry. It's clean. You do get that note of lime or lemon or orange or whatever one you're using. You do get that note as you sip. It doesn't add the flavor, but also it's really pretty. I often will just do, whiskey, because we're not talking about bourbon anymore. So I often will do whiskey, bitters, and a lime garnish, or an orange garnish, and it's wonderful.
Reluctantly.
This podcast is reluctantly sponsored by the real estate team of homegirls.ca, a top producing team at Remax Professionals. If you are buying or selling in the Edmonton area, Shauna and Bonnie can handle everything with strong industry connections to mortgage brokers, home inspectors, lawyers, and contractors to support every step. They can sell your current home and find your new place, whether you're expanding as a family, downsizing as empty nesters, or looking for a commercial space for your growing business. I also know they can help you find your new place in the Edmonton region if you're migrating from Ontario, BC, or any other part of Canada for that matter. I first met Shauna and Bonnie 10 years ago when we were beginning to downsize, and they have been our trusted real estate advisors through buying and selling no less than 6 properties. I've also recommended them to many friends who want real, relatable people with a personalized, hands-on approach. New home, investment, recreational, even commercial. Homegirls.ca is the website. Email info is there, and you can call them at 780-517-HOME.
Reluctantly.
Okay, you've got some weapons of mass destruction up here. What are you gonna mix up for me? Are you gonna shake something for me?
Yeah, so also we've kind of deviated. This one kind of sticks out a little bit in our product line, but it's one that's near and dear to my heart. And it's a coconut and habanero margarita syrup. So this one's very special to me. Everybody likes a spicy margarita, but sometimes when you get a spicy margarita, it's not spicy. So I fixed that for you guys. Also, there's a massive movement for non-alcoholic drinks or drinking less, like your last presenter had mentioned. I'm actually going to mix you a non-alcoholic margarita. And so because the spice notes in the actual syrup itself, it tricks your brain to think you actually are drinking tequila. So it's kind of a cool little thing. So no alcohol in this. It's purely just sugars and juices, and I'm going to mix that up for you guys.
Okay, great. Just to set that back in the thing. We had somebody booing the non-alcoholic, obviously a school bus driver. All right, you explain to me what's happening as you're going.
Okay, so this is a heavy lime juice base. So we just have an ice in the actual margarita shaker itself. And so to make an actual margarita, it's about 2 ounces of lime juice we're putting in. I'm going to double this to make sure that I have enough to spread it out over a couple of drinks. And then we're going to do a 1/2 ounce of orange juice because when we're making a classic margarita, we usually have triple sec, and triple sec is that nice orange flavor, so we're subbing that in with the orange juice, okay? And then from there, we're going to do a 1/2 ounce of our coconut and habanero syrup. What I really like about this drink in particular is we talk about complexity of a drink. You will taste all the different notes. You'll taste the lime, then you'll taste the sweetness of the coconut, and then you'll hit that spicy finish of the habanero at the end. Push it. So you're going to put half of this mixture into the glasses, and then we're going to top it with tonic water. And of course, because we eat with our eyes, We'll garnish it with a nice little lime. There we go. That's our margarita.
Okay, there you have your zero proof margarita right there.
Cheers.
Well, it tastes exactly like a margarita. Tastes just like a margarita. There you go. Michelle Middleton from Middleton's
Middleton's Bitters.
Sorry. Let's have a hand for her. Her booth is just around the corner. You can go and talk more with her. And we need a couple of volunteers. Maybe Mr. School Bus Driver wants to come and try one with no alcohol. You want to try one with no alcohol? Come on up here. And then,
That one's right there.
oh, okay. You want to try one too? There you go. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to come and try one? Oh, come on. It's non-alcohol. It's not like you're going to burst into flames. Try something with no alcohol in it. Okay. There you go.
Is this the one that you sipped, sir?
No, this is the one I...
He wants your DNA. Cheers, buddy. Cheers, buddy.
All right. Again, thank you. Michelle Middleton from Middleton's Bitters right around the corner here.
Thanks, guys. I've made a disaster.
That was great. This really does taste good, right?
Right? It's the habanero will give you that, like you drink, like it tricks your brain.
Yeah.
Of course, it's great in an actual margarita too.
It's really good. I like it.
Reluctantly.
Today's podcast brought to you by homegirls.ca, a top producing team at Remax Professionals, and Northern Alberta Heating. Work in and out of Edmonton. They're looking for sheet metal workers. Resumes to tim@northernheating.ca. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it.
Reluctantly.